There are only really two categories in Metal Gear Solid speedruns. All bosses, where you go through the entire game and don't skip any of the boss fights, and for others, it's the any % category, where we have large skips, skipping big sections of the game and boss fights, and really only do the most necessary things in order to see the final score screen. Today, we're gonna take a look at the any % hard category and see how the times and world records have changed, especially the strategies and the runners that carried these categories' world records. Welcome to the Metal Gear Solid any % hard console and emulator world record history. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I will talk to you about the recent back and forth of two world record holders in Metal Gear Solid 1. The speedrun history will also go a little bit deeper today, as I do want to try out some stuff that I've been working on in the background. So if you like it, let me know in the comments down below what you think of this format. The reason why I want to talk about two categories at once is quite simple, because there used to be one. Even the PC version at some point in time wasn't even split off into its own category. That and more I will talk about today, and especially in the most recent updates where two runners have been going back and forth. So before we start looking at runs, let's quickly discuss what is any % actually made up of. Because in this game, it's not just to go through the game as fast as possible, beating all the bosses. In the any % actually we have to do some work. But thankfully it's not that complex, just a little bit tricky. Let's go through it step by step. The main contributions, of course, to the glitches that have led to making this run possible have come from Magnum66 back in the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. And of course, other people like 𝐿 UK and Slate that were also part of the community back then. Officially on January 16th, the final trick was found out that finally led also to any % being possible. The first four main ingredients that we have for any % are as follows. The vent glitch. When you go down to the first building in B1, you go through the vent, you lie down with your legs halfway into the vent, you look up in first person mode, and as you let go of the first person camera, you press X quickly, and if everything comes together, you stand up inside of the vent outside of the level boundaries. From there you can just walk along the wall to the door and touch the door from the outside. And because the only way to enter the cell at that point is actually after Wolf 1, the story immediately goes all the way forward in its flags and treats it as if you've beaten already all the bosses. What happens from here on is basically you go through the torture as usual. You have to go through the torture once to then decline, get the autocon ending, of course the faster ending. After you escape as usual, we're gonna get one item before we leave. So we're gonna go back down to B2, grab the PSG-1, which we'll use later for another trick. After we grab the PSG-1, we actually leave the first building, go through Canyon and enter the new building B1. This is the first time we actually get a rank up, where we also get our health a little bit increased and are also able to use more weapons now. From here, we usually go down to B1, grab the Nikita on the higher difficulties, such as, for example, here in hard difficulty, and we're going to move onwards to the commander's office where Psycho Mantis used to be. Interesting thing is that when we enter the room, there's no Psycho Mantis, of course, anymore, because the game flag has already been set forward far enough that we actually have no fight there anymore, but we still get the rank up here as well, allowing us to finally use the PSG-1 that we just picked up in the armory in the first building. From here on out, we move on through the cave, go through the underground passage. And normally, when you enter an area where there used to be a boss fight, you also get the rank up. But in this instance, we don't get the rank up here. And this is important. The Wolf 1 rank up is actually the one that we need in order to get the right level to be able to use later the Stinger, because the next boss fight we fight, of course, is the Hind. But because we never get the rank up here from Wolf 1's fight, we're a little bit in trouble. And this is where the next set of tricks comes along. We move through the level as normal, go up the tower A, rappel down again, move over the walkway, and then reach Tower B. Now in Tower B, we need to be able to skip the hind. Let's go bit by bit. First off, we enter Tower B, we go all the way to the bottom to initiate the cutscene that then triggers the other set of actions. The first action, of course, is moving the boxes to the side, so we can actually continue on to the roof of Tower B. And of course, it sets now the trigger active for the autocon cutscene. Then, after this first cutscene at the bottom, as we go up, we now have to delete our stinger. And how can we do this? Well, Magnum66 also found this together with Slade, that you can actually manipulate the game into having 2 weapons active at the same time. How does this work? Well, step 1, be prone. Step 2, get damaged and knocked to the side. Somewhere, doesn't matter which direction. As you get knocked, you have to unequip your item by pressing L1 and then hold the FPV button. As you hold the FPV button, you want to mash any inputs on your controller. L2, R2, the analog sticks, and even of course D-pad and face buttons if you can manage to do so. Just always hold the FPV button. And after a short moment, Snake will automatically stand up. As he's standing up, you should be able now to switch from the weapon that you used to have to a weapon that forces you into FPV, which is the Stinger and the PSG-1. In our instance here in Tower B, we're going to use the Stinger, and ideally beforehand we used the Chaff. Why is that important? Well, now the game thinks we have the Stinger active and it shows us 0 ammo, and we're not being forced into FPV. And at the same time, the animation shows that, oh, Snake still has the Chaff in his hand, and it actually deals the same as a Chaff. So what we can do now is, we walk basically up, and we ideally have the Chaff cook in our hand and explode in our hand. It was a small amount of damage, which is fine, but this explosion in our hand actually causes the game to update everything else. It's like, okay, so Chaff gets removed, that's fine. And what do we have here? Oh, Stinger with 0 ammo. And what the game does actually, when there's a weapon with 0 ammo and it gets deducted by 1, it actually will delete that ammo/weapon instead. So the Stinger gets deleted effectively by popping a Chaff, and the game confuses the empty Stinger as that Chaff. It says like, we're gonna remove 1, so we're gonna remove the entire Stinger. The game gets a little bit confused at that point. You just deleted the Stinger, but you also already have successfully seen the cutscene at the bottom of the stairs. So instead of forcing you to get the Stinger back again by just going out of the room and coming back in, you're now just able to walk past the trigger for the autocon cutscene, but the boxes have still been moved to the side, allowing you to reach the top of Tower B. And as we do so, we're actually of course not finding the hind. We turn back around, we go all the way down again, and as we enter again this staircase here in Tower B, the game's like, oh yeah, of course, I'm not confused anymore. You don't have the Stinger in your hand, so you gotta go back now. I moved the boxes back in the 2x2 configuration, so you cannot go to the roof because you don't have the Stinger. Duh. Only trouble, of course, is we are at the top of Tower B. So, are we soft knocked? Well, thankfully, it's the second part of how we skip the hind here, and that's the final piece of the puzzle that finally made 80% possible. We just walk back down, and if we lean against the rating, have no weapon on hand, and we just press D-pad down, it is possible with the right animation that Snake slightly steps up. And during the step up, we can actually step on the boxes. Thankfully though, from this point on, we just need to walk inside the staircase, basically fall to our deaths. But oh wait, Medical Sword 1 doesn't have any fall damage because you never intended to fall from any high places like that. Now all you gotta do is leave Tower B through the regular room and enter the snowfield where we fight Wolf 2. Congratulations, you just skipped the hind in Metal Gear Solid 1. This whole process of skipping stuff in Metal Gear Solid 1 has taken months to be developed, and it was such a great journey that I will definitely come back and do a more proper explanation and timeline of the events that led to this category being made. But we're not done yet. In Disc 1, you can still skip one more boss, and that is Wolf 2. And what would you say to that? We can also use the weapons glitch once again. So, similar as we did it in Tower B, we can just go prone, get damaged. You can do the same with the explosives, or hey, there's the FBI right in front of us in this Wolf 2 fight, so I just go prone, crawl forward until I get damaged. Then, as I get damaged, I unequip the item once again, FPV, mash buttons, and go from whatever weapon I had before, this time it actually doesn't matter, to the PSG-1, and now we just walk through the death barrier. Because in this confused state, once again, the game doesn't know what to do, and instead of being pushed back by the death barrier, you can just be ignoring it, walk past it, and touch the load zone that's behind the death barrier that initiates then the load after the Wolf 2 fight. Congratulations, Sailor, you just skipped Wolf 2. Now that leaves us almost done with Disc 1, we can move on to Disc 2, but there's one thing. For Rex, we need this thing. It's the only effective weapon against it, and so, fun fact, after Wolf 2, we gotta go back inside Tower B, take the elevator up to the middle, go out, grab the Stinger, take the elevator back down, and then leave through the snowfield to then finally lift this 1 to swap over to this 2. And we cannot actually do this before Wolf 2, because before Wolf 2, if you try to go back, the elevator won't work. Because technically, of course, in this tower, you have never actually fought the Hind, and of course the game has no reason to make the elevator work actually. But after Wolf 2, despite not having the rank up, you still get the card necessary, and that card and other flag is also an indicator for the game to think, you're back in Tower B, but with the proper card, you probably want to backtrack a little bit. So it actually sends the elevator all the way to the bottom as if you've taken it down and fought the 4 enemies in that elevator, and it allows you to take a bit up, get the stinger back again, and now you're ready to go into this too. But let's go back to the rules first. This is how any percent was run, and this is the first run that was done with it on any percent hard difficulty. At the start of 2013, there was not just playing through the game as fast as possible, but playing through the game as fast as possible with a large skip, which is why this category back then used to be called also large skips. In fact, actually, if you take a look at the leaderboards as they existed back then, there were only hard and extreme set as difficulty, because hard was the highest difficulty you could get on a new game run, and extreme was only unlocked later with a second playthrough. And only later, in 2017 actually, the PC console and emulator platforms were actually separated. As we can see here in this old Discord post here from April 2017, only then actually the ending variable that used to be a thing as well for Metal Gear Solid 1, the good or the bad ending, or the autocon or metal ending, was actually removed. Considering even only then in 2017, easy and normal as a difficulty joined the board, before 2017 people were really only just doing extreme difficulty runs. Roldan, a former moderator and at that time active moderator for Metal Gear Solid on speedrun.com, has made this run on the EPSXE emulator. He did this run back in 2013, May to be exact, and to this day this is the only run that's still active on his speedrun.com leaderboard from 11 years ago. So let's take a look at this early run and see what the performance is like from 2013 as we go through today's world record history. As it used to be standard, we are just waiting here in the corner in the docks and wait for the elevator to come down. There's nothing we can do really here in order to speed up the time for the elevator to come down, so we just wait here. So even back then in the tank hangar, we knock here at the tank in order to distract the guys that are coming up, and we're going into the elevator back down here. What you will notice is Roldan also is not using the analog stick here. He's using the D-pad for 8-way movement, which, as we know these days, actually the ability to have full 360-degree angle movement is much more fine-tuned and precise, and also for example for quicker turns around corners. As we start, of course, at the start of 2013, it was shown already that we can glitch here with the FPV or camera glitch into a vent, which also later got dubbed then into the vent glitch. However, as we see here, Roldan back in 2013, he also went all the way down here to grab the farmers, assumingly, for example, for a later fight. Today's standard routing basically has no farmers used at all here anymore. We just go straight into this room as we see here, grab the PSG-1, turn around and leave. Something that is also done to this day is actually where we go here into the new building 1B and grab quickly the Nikita. With the Nikita later, we're going to fight Raven. However, there also the type of setups that we use have changed quite a little bit. Of course, in 2013, we also have not known yet about the so-called Boba glitch or frozen door glitch. So, as we go through the Tower A here, we're going to make use of exploding something before we go through the door in order to have the alert come in, but not the cutscene, so we're quickly able to move. Then we walk all the way to the top of the tower and then rappel down again. Roldan did this here quite clean, I would argue, but not without some flaws. Even when rappelling down the tower again to go to the walkway between the two towers, we can also see some non-optimized strategies, which later by other runners have been done more optimized way. So, going down here with a fresh set of health, he makes it down with, well, at least a few times being shot, which on hard difficulty is not critical, because at least on hard difficulty, there are still rations that you can find in the world. And of course, unlike on extreme, you are allowed to have 2 rations on your person at all times. Last but not least, after we made the rappel here, we're also going to go down again here from the walkway over into Tower B. And of course, for that, we need to grab also some stuns to get rid of the guards at the end of the walkway. Roldan does this here actually quite well, as he's going left and right to avoid the shots by the guards and not being knocked back by a ton, and just using 1 stun to make his way over here. After that, we made our way finally to Tower B, where we could do the next set of glitches in order to then go on to skip more stuff from any percent. Roldan back then used something that's a little bit more safer. He actually goes all the way down, then leaves through the door and come back in. If we were to die now, actually he would just need to walk in again here from this door and not need to walk all the way down and then up again. So this little setup still costs a little bit of time, but actually makes it a little bit safer for him to perform the trick. Now after Roldan came back at the Tower B, he immediately prepares the C4 so he can go prone, damage himself and set up the weapons glitch as previously discussed. He uses the C4 here specifically so he can position himself as far away as possible and take the the least amount of damage. And as we can see, he first tries getting the weapons glitch active here, using it immediately, and then being able to get rid of the stinger and have the effect of the chaff active as well. As we can see now, though, Roldan actually reaches the end of these stairs, and as we can also see, he just needs to do a little alignment and immediately steps on the boxes. When I try to do this in a run, I never get a first try. I have to try over and over again. As you see Roldan here, at the start of the Wolf 2 fight, he actually uses the same weapons glitch once again as he did in the tower. And then, of course, he would equip the PSG-1, being able to move past the death barrier into the load zone and trigger the load to go past Wolf 2. In this instance here, as we can see, he stands up and would need to put on the PSG-1, but sadly, in his first attempt, he was not successful actually activating the glitch. There's a few things that can go wrong here. There's different videos on YouTube that will cover how to do this weapons glitch if you want to learn them. I even made one for beginners for the Master Collection version, which is exactly the same as the emulator version necessarily. And so, as we see here, in the second attempt, also was not able to do this glitch. So he loses a lot of time here trying to perform this weapons glitch in order to skip Wolf 2, and that's alone a big time loss for him here. So in this too, as he starts now the elevator fight, we can see why he got also himself the farmers, because he will actually use it here to pre-damage all of these guards here. There's only one problem: these guards actually will not die from the farmers right away. It's still faster to just get them over the edge by PBKing or throwing them, as we see here. In this instance, the last guard was actually just choked out. And of course, as it continues, we finally do the boss fight that allows us to finally also then let to use the stinger. Here for Raven, we actually will use now the Nikita on hard difficulty, and Raven in this instance is right behind the first box here. This is a cool setup that we also learned from the task by the Englishman. We actually found out that the initial set of bullets that Raven uses actually have no hitbox at all. As you can see, you can just shoot the Nikita around the corner as Raven is actually shooting the Nikita, and they don't blow up. Again, that's because the bullets didn't have any hit interaction yet. But the problem is you have to first damage Raven initially. So that's why actually most of the runners actually get tripped over. You first have to hit him with the Nikita without being interrupted, and then afterwards you have a relatively big time before the bullets get active again. And in that pause, of course, we can set up another Nikita rocket, shoot Raven until his health is depleted, and win the fight that way. Now, after the fight, we also have finally the right level, so we can use all the weapons that we couldn't use beforehand, such as the Stinger, for example, which leads us straight to the Rex fight. So, towards the end, after all the power key sequence, which we're going to skip for the time being right now, we're moving on to fighting Metal Gear Rex. And as we can see here, Roldan uses a strategy which is keeping himself a little at a distance, trying to walk away from the gunfire that normally is pushed towards you. And as he can, he's always shooting off another stinger. If the rockets gets into you, he gets closer to the Rex, and then he walks back again in order to avoid the LMG fire, which is perfectly fine for the face base. As we can see here, he even has the body armor that he got from the blast furnace, and with enough distance and patience, we actually see here the finish of this fight without taking a single point of damage. As we enter phase 2, once again, we're going to come closer here, and he's often shooting out a stinger in between damage phases and actually gets hit here a few times. However, it needs to be said, for this difficulty and this fight here, sometimes it is actually worth it taking some damage. As for the following fight after that, the Liquid Fist fight, we actually don't intend really to take damage here. Speaking of Liquid, Roldan had one problem to deal with here, and that is actually that he played on the North American version. While of course the North American version is the best version in the world, it's not the true thing here for Metal Gear Solid 1. In this instance, we know that later, if we play the Japanese integral release of the game, so the second time Metal Gear Solid has been released on the Japanese market, had the subtitle of integral, there we were actually able to skip the cutscene that we see right now. This liquid speech is not skippable on the PAL versions and the North American versions of Metal Gear Solid, and also not on the original Japanese version. However, the Japanese people got a second release of Metal Gear Solid 1 where the VR levels were bundled together with the main game, and in this updated Metal Gear Solid 1 version, where also now difficulties were introduced, which was not a thing yet in the original Japanese release, we actually got able to skip this cutscene here, which is a nice quality of life improvement. But as we finally get here to the Liquid fight, we see here he tried to do a single throw setup, which is a little bit tricky because we have to be at a slight angle for this to work, at least in my own experience, and he tries to capture Liquid here in the side. So instead of performing a double punch setup, which keeps him basically infinitely in the corner, he's just doing a slight different variation of that, where we're constantly waiting for Liquid to attack us, we duck or even like fully down on the floor, and then just giving a few punch kicks. This is slow for sure, considering the alternative is, well, basically trying again after death. But the problem with dying in this fight here to try to set up again is, of course, on hard difficulty and any difficulty that's lower than extreme, basically, we cannot just go over the edge. Only on extreme difficulty, if we go over the edge, we instantly die and can reset again after continue. And for some instances, this can be faster rather than trying to do the fight as Roldan is doing right here with just double punches back and forth. So once again, comparatively here, he does lose some time. But it needs to be said, after everything, once this run was done, with a runtime of 1 hour 21 minutes and 30 seconds IGT here, Roldan had the world record for emulator hard difficulty, which will stay actually the world record for a long time. Consider once again, of course, that hard as a difficulty was not really run that often, as the most focus was by the small community back then to do runs on the extreme difficulty. But as times have changed, rules have been set up here. We also play now on all difficulties, meaning easy, normal, hard, and extreme. Emulator/console was also separated, including the PC category also becoming its own board. Now, runners had the choice of playing on 3 different platforms, either on PC with the old PC version, or the emulated version on PC, or the actual console version, with, of course, also large skips versus all bosses, and of course the easy, normal, and hard and extreme difficulty. So more runners had actually an incentive to go about their day and finally try to attempt more runs here on the other difficulties that are not extreme. One of those runners back then was 𝐇𝐚𝐮, as we see him right here, back in 2017 on the NTSC-J version, or the Japanese version of the game. So let's take a look what he did better this time versus Roldan back then. In the beginning, as usual, we're going to wait here in the docks without being seen in order to quickly go on the elevator and then make our leave. You also see Tommy doing a great vent glitch here in the beginning of the run in order to quickly go into the cell. Once again, leaning against this, slowing down, and not first try, but second try this trick here, losing just a little bit of time, but then also in the out of bounds, walking directly to the door to see where he goes next. After escaping the cell, he makes his way over to get the PSG-1, and we can already see here that he does a little bit of an optimized version what Roldan did. Instead of trying to grab the farmers and make use of it later in the run, Tommy immediately goes on to grab the PSG-1. In this instance, he crawls all the way 4 here, and he just goes back a little bit and waits. This is not fully optimal yet, but this will be basically the go-to pattern, as we will see later, for how to get this PSG-1 in any percent runs. Coming back here to Tower B, once again we have to walk all the way down, and we will see that 𝐇𝐚𝐮 also will go and do this weapons glitch right away, and sadly not executing the first try. Well, you could think of it like, oh, that's actually a waste potential. What if he dies now? Well, once again, he puts on C4. He has 2 still available, damaging himself, setting up the trick again, to mashing all the buttons in FPV, go to string and tries it another time. Now he's slowly running out of life in order to actually execute his trick first try, and even this instance here where he threw a grenade at the wall, he noticed, oh, I wasn't even damaged, so I gotta go a little bit closer once again. This set of tries, of course, cost him a lot of time, but as we will see here, finally after the 4th explosion, he makes it work, and he makes his way all the way up. 𝐇𝐚𝐮 also, when he goes back down, we will actually see him here perform the grenade throws against the turrets quite remarkably well. Once again, at the end here where the elevator is, you see it's like, oh, there's the boxes, aligning quickly, stepping on. But this time, as we can see, versus Roldan, he actually needed a couple of attempts. This is what my usual experience is with this trick here. Try to step on the boxes, takes a couple of attempts, and there we go. As he's falling down, he puts on the PSG-1 again. I don't know why. What he wants to use, of course, is the chaff here. So this is probably just a misimport, and then he needs to go on. Now, at the start of Wolf 2, once again, we need to perform the weapons glitch, and 𝐇𝐚𝐮 as well also throws here a grenade to the side, aligning himself a little bit easier with the grenade, gets damaged, and performs this weapons glitch. And as we see here, as he stands up, first try, puts on the PSG-1, is able to go past the death barrier into the load zone. This is a huge time save versus Roldan, so this is where I definitely had most of the advantage over the world record at that time. 𝐇𝐚𝐮 also is seen here having some trouble. One of the things that he could have done back then to have a little bit of faster time is when he comes to this elevator, he should have actually walked back inside the blast furnace room one more time and then get out. Then the elevator would have stayed there. He probably just forgot at this point. So that's a little bit of time loss. But what's an even bigger time loss is what's coming up next in his run here. As he's taking quite a lot of damage, he's very low on health. And while he has the ration on, he has some trouble actually going past his next encounter on the elevator. So as he's gotten, of course, the ration to be used to not die from first hit here, he has some trouble actually getting these elevator guards off the elevator. That's the whole point of this fight. And as you can see here, he gets actually knocked over a bunch of times. And this is where this run actually is slowly showing its age, because there were not that many tutorials available yet. And we can also see here 𝐇𝐚𝐮 has some trouble getting past this fight because it's not his own death here. He certainly has more deaths over and over until finally on the 4th attempt, he makes it past this fight. So that sadly, of course, is still a huge time loss here and potential for the next runner to come around and beat and optimize this part of the run. Next off in this run, of course, we have to fight against Raven, and on the hard difficulty, Raven will be just around the corner behind the first box, basically, or container we see here. We know back from the 2013 task that we can actually shoot the Nikitas against Raven here after redemption once. And the reason why 𝐇𝐚𝐮 here actually went to the right side after the box is quite cool, because he can actually shoot the Nikita at Raven from behind and then he actually turns around. One other issue that 𝐇𝐚𝐮 has though is that actually, there we go, Raven is running all the way away from him here, and it can happen that if he doesn't notice the Nikita rockets in time, he actually is just starting to walk away even further, and then 𝐇𝐚𝐮 needed to chase up with him. But as we can see here in this instance here, while he does run a little bit away, at least he still has enough chances to quickly shoot Raven in the back and then take him out. However, as we see here, he also needs to reposition himself a little bit more, trying to catch up with Raven so it doesn't need forever to shoot the Nikitas against Raven. After a lengthy fight, he's finally done first try here and making his way past Raven. So after the pair key sequence, we're gonna go back to the next boss fight where we fight Metal Gear Rex. In this instance here, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 made sure to have some rations on him. So as we see here, 2 rations, full health, which is always full, of course, when you start this fight. We're gonna go over here, shoot off the stinger, and then go back and forth. Once again, he uses basically the same idea of just basic fighting against Rex, getting closer to Rex as the rockets come towards you. And of course, if you don't have the rockets, you just avoid the line of fire from the LMG, for example. Nothing particular is fancy about this fight, but it does the job. After the second Rex phase, we just go on without any big issues. We're actually going to see the advantage of playing on the Japanese integral version. As I explained earlier, if you play the North American or European releases of the game, you cannot skip what's coming after Rex, and that is of course the speech by Liquid. But in the Japanese version, we're actually able here to skip Liquid's cutscene and we can move on just after the speech. 𝐇𝐚𝐮 also was interesting because he didn't even try to perform any of the setups that we knew back then, throwing Liquid, for example, for 2 times to have him in the top right corner and then double punch him all the way. 𝐇𝐚𝐮 just does the fight basically like a casual, which is totally fine, of course, considering that there was still a lot of potential for this record to go down, and so playing perfectly for each boss fight wasn't even necessary to get the world record. So as 𝐇𝐚𝐮 is just walking around here Liquid and giving some punches and kicks, we get to the end of the run here, as we see, with an internal time of 1 hour 14 and 53 seconds on the score screen, with just 3 continues, all of them done on the elevator and nothing else being a big issue here. So that is your new world record here in 2017 with 1 hour 14 and 53 seconds. So let's talk about the next update in this category. It has been yet another 2 years, but another runner stepped up to the podium and claimed world record in this category. This time we're actually leaving the emulator for once and we're going back to physical consoles. And we have here Plywood running a new world record in any percent. This one was performed 6 years ago on December 18th, 2017 on physical PlayStation 2 here. Once again, the Japanese version of the game was used and thankfully was used also with the integral version, getting the benefit, of course, of skipping the Liquid speech at the end of the game. Plywood, of course, is not alone to many of the speedrunning scene. He has been around a lot, specifically, of course, in Metal Gear Solid 1, but also in games like Zone of the Enders 1 and 2. And of course, as you can see here, lots of other Metal Gear games and other games as well. Back in 2019, we once again see at the start of the run here that we're gonna just take care of the right guard here and then leaving on to leave at the elevator. Of course, performing the vent glitch once again here. And did it first try, of course, going straight to the door to go into the cell. After leaving the cell, going straight down to the armory once again here, throwing the first guy over the shoulder, waiting a short moment and then going unnoticed past the other guy here. What we see Plywood do is also the same thing as other runs did beforehand. He just crawls all the way up here and then going back to leave also immediately. However, in this instance, we see that he was actually a little bit too fast and needs to delay just a little bit to make it past this guard at the elevator here. Plywood also uses here analog controls, so using the analog stick on his controller here, allowing for more fine-tuned angles and movements here to move even a little bit faster. He's grabbing the Nikita here to get ready for the Raven fight later in the game. And something that I find interesting is Plywood also uses the vent glitch here once again in the caves. If you do this little vent glitch, the second half of the floor texture in this cave is just not being loaded at all. It's barely a time save, but it's still worth doing if you want to be really fast, and Plywood did that here in perfect fashion. Once again, of course, climbing all the way up here in Tower A, and later then, of course, rappelling down as well. And so Plywood actually shows us what a good start of a rappel sequence looks like, immediately going down, not swinging to any of the sides, so we're able to move down the beam here, and then moving a little bit faster rather than just swinging back and forth. In this repel sequence, this is key, especially here to save time. As you see here, he intentionally takes some of the damage just to get even back again here on the steel beam to keep walking even more. Yes, he does lose some damage, but once again, he also will have the advantage of more rations on the ground just after the sequence, so he can easily heal up again. What else found interesting here in the walkway, he does not use any stuns. He's actually using the sniper to get rid of one of the guys, and then the other ones actually walk to the side. After that, he's just tossing one of the stuns and then quickly moving to the side to just walk past these guys at all. Once again, performing the glitches in Tower B here, where we're going to skip the hind, we walk all the way down, and just after the little cutscene trigger, we turn around, explode ourselves, and then get ready to use the glitch. In this instance, Plywood did it here first try, not losing any time at all, and moving now to the top of the tower. After coming back down again, Plywood also uses the grenade once again to get rid of the turrets and to not be damaged here, which of course on hard difficulty is quite a factor. You don't have that much health here to just tank the damage. Once again, it was time here to step on top of these boxes, ideally just leaning against them, railing here and immediately stepping on, but as you can see here, he does lose a little bit of time, unfortunately, having to do this multiple times. But considering how good the run was so far, doing this here on the third attempt is actually not even that terrible of a time loss. And then of course, getting ready for Wolf 2 skip, we're gonna perform yet another weapons glitch. What I like about this Wolf 2 weapons glitch is, as we can see here, he's actually crawling forward and using the death barrier knockback. This of course saves a bunch of time over the previous runners where they just walk to the side and damage themselves with C4 grenades, and instead he just used the death barrier, which basically serves the same function as just being knocked back by an explosion. Graham of course is staying again, going back into Tower B, and then making his way over to Disc 2. Here's something that's a little bit worth explaining now. As we are more and more exploring, of course, options to be even faster here, we see one of the strategies actually is that he used the stun that explodes behind a door in order to get rid of these guards. If a stun explodes behind a door, the effect will still happen, the guards will be knocked out. And so you do have enough time to use the 𝐇𝐚𝐮 to quickly get rid here of the crane and then moving on through the run. Also, unlike Thoma, of course, he actually moves into the room and then immediately back to the blast furnace to reload the room a second time. Right now on the second time loading, the elevator also is immediately available, saving it another more time over Thoma 16's run. As we can see also here, Plywood has been studying this file a little bit more than Thoma, and we can see here that he has quite figured out what to do. He's throwing two of these guards over the railing, and the third one is just basically chokes out, and that's his fight version here for the elevator. First try, of course, saving yet again more time over the previous run. So far, Plywood's run has been a huge improvement over all of the previous runners that have been doing 80% hard. And what's at least cool from this standpoint is this is something that we don't see often anymore at all today. We're actually going to start the fight by having Rex turn to the side and allowing us a clean shot right away. And as you see here, of course, with having two rations on hard difficulty, it's not even that critical that we avoid all the damage. And Plywood uses this quite well, as we see here, just moving it to the side, taking the damage from the LMGs and the rockets, but also sadly missing some shots on Rex at least. So having the extra ammo here definitely is not that unimportant. And as we move on here into the second phase, instead of moving closer, Plywood actually starts off by immediately shooting a stinger at Rex. This is a little bit disadvantageous because Rex is actually leaning back and forth, but however, everything considered, this is still a very clean and straightforward fight, because as we see here, he tanks a lot of damage, and despite missing a few shots, he is still very fast compared to all the previous runs. And now, maybe for the first time in this category at least, console 80% hard will see a clean liquid fight.
Have at you, Snake!
For the first time now, a world record has a clean execution like this. Everyone else, of course, as I said, was more focused on extreme, so it has been done on extreme already, but at least for the 80% hard difficulty category, this was the first time some runner actually has done it on this world record niveau. So with that being said, Plywood's time is, of course, to no one's surprise after watching this, now 10 minutes faster than Thoma 16's run, and from here on out, we'll definitely see that more things need to be done in order to get world record rather than just trying to play well. However, of course, there's also more tricks to come. And so at the end of this run, we have a new world record of 1 hour, 4 minutes, 5 seconds IGT, with 0 continues, might as well add, and of course, a very clean statistic in the boss fights and glitch executions. This run will stand for at least another 2 years, until one of the best runners of all time makes his debut. So who is 𝐇𝐚𝐮📓? Well, he's a North American runner, has been playing the Metal Gear Solid series for quite some time. In fact, I know that he's been playing the game since early childhood, and actually, he started running in March 2019. At least that is when his first run was officially uploaded to the leaderboards. Here with the example also. He plays all bosses easy on PlayStation TV. First preliminary run of 𝐸_1 I've ever done. Did not really look into tutorials, how-tos, etc. Other than little tidbits I already know. Wanted to post this to see how far I would have came once I started running this game more. I was somewhat impressed at the time for a one-attempt run. We'll be coming back for sure. It's 1 hour 40 minutes time on easy difficult for once in March 2019. Was definitely not terrible, considering this is what the boards look like here for all bosses easy difficulty. We had Plywood on the world record stage, of course, with 1 hour 27 and only 13 minutes slower without any tutorials or help. He was already at 7th place here. So let's have a look what he did here in order to beat the previous world record. As usual for the time, he actually started out in the docks as well, just doing nothing and waiting for the elevator to come down. Performing the vent glitch also was no trouble for him here, as we see here, just lying down, turning around to be already in position, and then first try going out of bounds. Then afterwards, getting the 𝐵𝐶G_1 from the armory also, he did the exact same thing as Plywood did, just throwing the guy. However, in this instance already, we can see him playing a little bit better, because he did not wait at all for the guard that walks past here, and know that he can also stand up a little bit earlier. In this instance here, he actually also keeps moving to the right, a little bit further south, and then utilizing punch kicks to get the guard out of the way that's waiting at the elevator here, saving just a little bit more time over Plywood. Once again, of course, in the nuke building 1B, we see here that he also gets the 𝐸𝐾𝐮 with all the ammo that we need in order to beat Raven, and specifically also he gets some stuns here right away, so he will be perfectly ready for the walkway later. Once again, here in the rappel sequence, as I alluded to earlier, tutorials have shown already how we can do a much faster progression here, going directly on the girder and then going to the side in order to try to be back on the girder again on the next side. There we go. Being damaged like this, going all the way across. There's even a slightly more optimized way to do this, what Plywood showed already just a little bit earlier in 2017. And last but not least, after the rappel sequence, he immediately starts the walkway run with just a stun and then going all the way up, not needing any resources, saving of course also a little bit more time. And with the second stun, he hits an even perfectly to just walk past him, no need to worry at all. Then as usual, at the bottom of Tower B, we go immediately up again and set up the weapons glitch as usual, so we can actually get this thing out of our inventory. He throws here a grenade against the wall, gets exploded, sets up the glitch with the constant inputs, and first tries it. Then at the end, of course, walking into the boxes, setting up quickly, and first try going on the box. Immediately crawling once again once the Wolf 2 fight starts, setting up here the weapons glitch by being pushed back from the death barrier, and also first try setting up here the 𝐵𝐶G_1 glitch so we can walk past the death barrier and touch the load zone. One thing I've noticed actually quite cool is also, he's playing on PSTV, so he doesn't need to change any discs. This is still not an emulator, this is still just a console version, but of course it's running the PSN download, other than other consoles where we need to get up and actually swap the discs out. This can happen quite fast actually. Also, once again here in the blast furnace, we see here how the stun actually gets thrown at the door and have all the enemy guards falling over, and he's using here a grenade actually to get rid of the tower, which is quite fascinating. He doesn't even need the 𝐸𝐾𝐮 and waiting for the load to drop, so the guard that usually runs up here will be gone. Now let's see the elevator fight. Flawless victory. And of course, at the start of Raven here, we see the alarms using the left side approach here, delaying just a little bit so that actually Raven walks just one step forward to get him just in the right position. Because now, every time when he shoots around the corner, Raven will always notice the 𝐸𝐾𝐮 and does not run off, which is quite a good way to stabilize basically him always seeing the 𝐸𝐾𝐮 rocket. But of course, as I explained earlier also, after he's been damaged, he has some iframes on himself, but also his bullets have iframes that can't hit us or the 𝐸𝐾𝐮 rockets. So we can just continuously shoot the 𝐸𝐾𝐮 rockets around the corner as he's been also alerted by them. Picking up for a quite fast fight here, saving just a little bit more time once again. Here's also something that I haven't looked into yet. So when the PAL key, of course, gets dropped after liquid shoots it out of your hand, if you have 10 or less alerts, the rat will eat the PAL key and you have to chase after the rat basically. Whereas back in the day, they just went for the basic standard route here and didn't think of any alerts that would collect. So for the time being here, the rat RNG was as always a little bit tricky. You were depending on the rat actually being in the good position. In this instance here, he did lose some time, didn't go to the left. Now after the entire PAL key sequence, we see here how Milligan Rex is being dealt with. And I like this quite a lot because 𝐇𝐚𝐮 does his own thing here right away. Putting on the ration still just for security, of course, helps. And as soon as possible, of course, sending out the first rocket. What he shows here is actually a quite nice loop that we sometimes still do to this day, where you just shoot the slinger, unequip, walk a little circle, and then avoid the laser at all. In the first phase, this is perfectly doable if you just have the right distance after you come back. And with this method, Rex will always send out the laser, giving you enough time to set up one stinger, walk around, and then sending up another stinger right after. Keep this entire loop safe and also damageless for the time being. Second phase of Rex is a little bit different here. There he will actually tank some damage, but having 2 rations on hard difficulty for the second phase alone, and don't need to worry about any other health after that, he actually just takes it fine, walks forward, tanks the damage, and uses the rations as he has them, making up for a quite fast run as we see here. Just need to avoid the rockets, that's perfectly fine, and then getting ready here to shoot the last few rockets after Liquid to go to the next fight. But can 𝐇𝐚𝐮 show us a great Liquid? Well, let's see how it looks like.
Have at you, Snake!
So for the time being at least, one of the few blemishes that this one has is that Liquid actually went away and we're losing some time here. That's where 𝐸𝐺𝑚𝐻 run was definitely clean, of course, objectively, where we just did the double punch setup infinitely until the fight was over. But other than that, that was quite a clean run. All the tricks working first try. And only a little bit of time left here, Liquid. And as you see here at the end, we have a time of 1 hour, 2 minutes and 3 seconds, 0 deaths. And from this point on out, we also see that runs get much cleaner and differences also get much more subtle. But for the time being here, on September 2nd, 2019, this is the new world record held by 𝐇𝐚𝐮_13. But what I really appreciate about this is that this was not the last time we see runners come back here. Just a month later, 𝐸𝐺𝑚𝐻 said, okay, it's time to do more hard any %. And we see him here actually joining once again as well on the PlayStation TV with the Japanese version of the game with a new time even. And going through the run here once again, we see also, as I said, it's getting more and more similar to each other. The differences are quite subtle, and so let's do just a quick speedrun of this speedrun. In the docks, nothing really happens. After escaping the cell, we also quickly wrap the PS1 here. Here also 𝐸𝐺𝑚𝐻 now did the same thing where he actually just runs past the second guy without being seen. Seemingly probably just never tried it before, and now seeing that someone else did it, he basically uses the exact same method. However, here he also, for safety probably, just waits around the corner and walks on. Once again in Tower B, after the cutscene at the bottom of the stairs, he sets out here to use the grenades to execute the weapons glitch in order to get rid of the stinger, being able to walk over to the top of Tower B and then come back down to have the boxes be repositioned again. What I like here is that he uses something I think Apache Smash told me he found, so I'll take his word for that, I guess. He throws the grenade as the cutscene begins. In the cutscene, the timer for the grenade stands still, and then in a position where he's at, he's just lying on the floor, taking the damage, and then doing the whole setup of unequipping the item, going FPV, bringing it around with all the inputs, and then once he's standing up again, going to the FPV weapon, in this instance, the stinger. First try once again, doing this whole setup here, quite nice. Saving some time for the grenade before the cutscene, quite good. And of course, moving up all the way now here, deleting the stinger, being able to move past the cutscene without it actually triggering. Once again, immediately at the start of the fight, just crawling forward into the death barrier, he sets up the weapons glitch. However, unlike 𝐇𝐚𝐮, he sadly needed a second attempt here, but that's just a small time loss considering everything, so second attempt still very fast here. And after, of course, grabbing the stinger again and the disc swap here, instead of going FPV for the rocket though, he just shoots it upward. And what I like is that actually this time there's no alert here, as all the guards have been knocked down, and he can just move on immediately. He does not need to delay at all, which is slightly faster, of course, than 𝐇𝐚𝐮, where he needed to wait. Once again, at the elevator fight, of course, he shows as well that he does know what he's doing here. However, unfortunately, his setups are slightly off here, and he needs to delay just a little bit in order to get this right. Of course, playing hard difficulty, not everything works as well. He gets knocked over multiple times and needed to delay, but he did die at least. So once again, there's a slight bit of misfortune here and a few time losses. Once again, what I like here in the Raven fight, 𝐸𝐺𝑚𝐻 actually does the other way. He goes to the right side of the container and shoots the Nikita behind Raven to get his attention. Now very close to the corner, but still not being able to be hit. He's now shooting Nikita over and over again against Raven, getting this fight done. Presumably because he's slightly closer to Raven, he also needs less time here. But however, remember, Raven's iframes take the exact time that they need, and we can't do this much faster anymore. However, nothing goes wrong here, so this is a clean time for his Raven fight as well. Once again, after the pack key was dropped, let's see how good the rat RNG was for this run. And I can tell you that, yeah, it was actually not that terrible. The rat was not right there. And we can check with the stinger if the rat would be on the left side. So this saves us some time needing to go to the left until we actually know that the rat is on the left. In this instance here, we see the rat actually coming out to the bottom side, allowing us to stay close still and getting the rat relatively quickly. As you can see here, there you go. We do not need to go all the way to the left, and you can also move slightly a bit to drop it down into the ditch already, grab the PAL key quite quickly. So this is also just a slight bit better, but still fast, of course, to get some time back again for that world record. What I like here about Plywood Strategy is that he's still not doing the exact same thing as 𝐇𝐚𝐮 does. He has his own method of beating Rex once again here on hard difficulty. So he shoots out 2 Stinger rockets and only then starts moving to avoid the laser. He unequips the Stinger, goes into FPV and leans by holding down the triangle button for FPV and holding R1 to lean to the side, and then quickly going out of FPV, tapping R1 again to go into the Stinger, and then shooting yet another rocket after him. So that way, while it's not damageless, it's still very fast and avoids most of the damage, at least to get through the fight as quickly as possible. And for the second phase here, he also barely tanks any of the damage, unlike 𝐇𝐚𝐮, who's just tanking all the damage with the rations on. He's unequipping the Stinger once again and leaning in FPV to avoid the damage for the most part. And he stays also in the right distance here to constantly bait out basically the laser and the LMGs, not the rockets, which is also quite advantageous because leaning back, of course, takes more time as you need to readjust to aim.
Good fight. Okay, this is the moment of truth. This is where we see if I can beat Mr. 𝐇𝐚𝐮.
Have at you, Snake. Nice shot!
Nice.
And once again, Plywood takes us to school here, showing us a great liquid fight here. In this instance, he actually uses a 0 throw setup, which requires us actually to punch single times liquid to get it further to the right and then transition over to double punches. This transition alone is incredibly difficult to do without actually dropping the liquid all the way. So changing your timing from single punches, which is 1 speed, and then going over to the double punches without interrupting yourself by accidentally pressing too fast or too slow is quite challenging, but he shows how it's just been done, and that saved a bunch of time, and even with 0 throw, 1 second more than the other 2 throw methods that we've seen so far. This is also where his timer shows that he's much ahead, and as we see at the end also, this is how he's taking it. Because in the end, the small timers that he had were absolutely not stopping him at all, and he actually set a new world record here, as I said, with a time of 1 hour, 1 minute and 26 seconds, getting the new world record down by 37 more seconds overall. Then just 26 days later, on October 30th, 2019, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 comes back and said, nah, we're not doing this. So he wants to take the world record back, and he sort of does. We see him once again just fooling around in the docks a little bit. He actually does the vent glitch perfectly fine first try. Then in the armory, of course, he quickly tosses the first guy and not delaying at all to move past the second guy. Barely touch the lasers, getting the PSG-1, and then of course moving on as quickly as possible. Then in new building B1, we also see him here quickly grabbing the Nikita, but this time actually opting to not get the extra stuns that are in the top right corner, saving just a little bit more time again. During the Tower A climb, he only uses 1 stun, keeping 2 left for the walkway, where he doesn't even use both stuns. He just uses 1 and then switches over to a grenade, having the grenade hopefully explode when the guards are fully active again. But as we see here, actually one of the guards is being missed by the explosion and knocks him over, costing just a little bit of time. So once again, unlike Plywood here, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 actually chooses to not use the grenade before the cutscene and instead opts to cook it before moving up. It will go out and very quickly explode, of course, so you don't need to delay much. This is just basically moving a little bit away when you take the damage and execute a weapons glitch, but it's still quite fast when you do it this way. Once again, it's fascinating, of course, when he goes down, that he will once again use the chaff shortly before he meets the turrets, so the chaff explodes as he's just there at the turret, and then ideally the chaff lasts long enough that they even are effective still as he moves past the second set of turrets, so he just needs 2 chaffs going up and 2 chaffs going down. However, as we'll see here, at least for this one set, he was just missing the window, moving past it. He did get damaged 1 time here. And of course, at the end here where the boxes are, it's hopefully first time that he goes in the box. As you see, he just did it first try. And as if it's the same business as usual, he just crawls forward into the death barrier, sets up the weapons glitch, and then executes it first try once again. After grabbing the Stinger again in Tower B, and after the disc swap, we go back to the blast furnace. And I like here that 𝐇𝐚𝐮 actually uses the exact same method that Plywood showed us beforehand, as he's using a Nikita here and the stun by the door. We actually do not get the alert that we would normally get And we get rid of the crane this way. So there's no alert, the guards are not moving up close here to the walkway, and we can just move past the crane like that. On the elevator fight, also 𝐇𝐚𝐮 shows us that yes, he does have a lot of control over the fight. However, he also still gets shot twice here, almost dying, but thankfully, because he's still punching through everyone, he makes it without big time loss, not needing to follow after any guards, so just being slightly faster. 𝐇𝐚𝐮 also here goes to Raven and approaches him this time from the right side, similar to Plywood, instead of the left side as he did in his own previous PB, alerting Raven once with the Nikita rocket and then shooting at Raven like that, going constantly around the corner, being very close to him and not losing much time at all. Now for this round, the rat RNG will be quite good, as we will see.
Cool rat, bro.
The God Rat. That's the perfect RNG that you can have, as you have less than 10 alerts. The rat will come in, eat the Palki, and immediately comes out here. So you just shoot it, and you immediately grab the Palki. And once again, after lengthy Palki sequence, here is the Rex fight again. Same business as before. 𝐇𝐚𝐮 does his own version of the fight, where he shoots the Stinger twice, and then after the second time, just goes in this little circle here, needing no lean at all, and still doing this fight entirely damageless by just staying at the right distance here, walking past the laser. This method works for hard and for extreme, and I could encourage you to try it yourself as well if you want to. And once again in Rex phase 2 here, unlike Plywood here, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 just decides to tank all the damage. He sadly misses one of the rockets that almost gets into the end of the fight, so it's just losing a little bit of time here, needing to set up again, and Rex needing reach position. This was the low damage shot, so he needs 2 more rockets sadly, so this is where his most time loss actually is coming from. And as I said, for a while now, runs get very close to each other, and this is basically the only big time loss that we have here. Once again, it's time here to beat Liquid.
Have at you, Snake.
Yeah, it's over.
And once again, Liquid sadly escapes here. So unfortunately here, Plywood takes the lead again for this fight at least, and 𝐇𝐚𝐮 is just standing here, losing a lot of time trying to chase after Liquid, which is basically the second and only other big time loss that his run has. But as I said, as it was all done, when the timer appeared, and the IGT is the only one that matters, we got a new world record.
Oh, I tied it! Right? I think. 26?
Yes, indeed. It's a tie. It's 1 hour, 1 minute, 26 seconds. Exactly the same time to the second as Plywood does. And at least for Metal Gear Solid runs, in case you didn't know, we do not separate here with milliseconds because we just go by IGT, and that is limited to a full second to the maximum. So 26 days later, he also got the world record with the exact same time. So now it's a tie. And this ends basically October 2019. Since then, a bunch of things have been found out about the game. For example, something that was known years ago, as we found Zeno did this in 2004. When you farm alerts in the beginning of the dogs, actually, you get a lot of alerts. You don't lose any time getting these alerts early on because the elevator still comes down at the exact same time. You do not carry the alert into the moment that the elevator comes down. So before the elevator comes down, you can carry as many alerts as you want. And if the last alert goes away before the elevator goes down, you don't lose any time. These extra alerts will then have you actually happen that the rat does not eat the Palki anymore, and the Palki will just land in the ditch. And the Palki in the ditch actually gives us 7 different positions, 6 to the left and 1 to the right, and most of them are actually way faster and better to go through in the ditch, just picking up the Palki from the floor rather than looking for the rat. With this reintroduced idea, nearby 𝐇𝐚𝐮 13, after looking at some forum messages in Metal Gear Solid 1 forums, actually he gets new runs going, not needing to worry about rat RNG anymore, and instead just going by the Palki RNG, which is mostly more favorable in the many cases. So after 1.5 years of running this game, now 𝐇𝐚𝐮 is back, ready to break the tie. As I explained, of course, we're gonna this time actually do some work in the docks. We're not just gonna wait. We're gonna kill one of the guards and then have this second guard basically follow us around and get over and over again an alert. Ideally, even you do get 6 alerts here, and then you get extra alerts as you move through the level. Once again, of course, the advantage to initiate the basic large escape that we have here, 80% already has been done. Not first try here, so losing just a microsecond here before actually going into the cell. In the armory, we also see him here grab the PSG-1, very similar to what we've seen before. However, we see here a runner that has almost a year more experience, and I think that actually shows here. He's standing up way earlier knowing that he won't be actually touching the lasers, and also waiting for the guard to walk past here, not needing the other method anymore, walking the full circuit around here. Something that's also curious for me, at least, is here he grabs the indicator and actually gets the extra stunts once again, presumably having then later a better tower effect. And indeed, as we see here, he's tossing most of the guards, but also using a few more of these stunts that he has now available once again to get through the tower A little bit faster without needing stopping by being shot necessarily. After the repel sequence, basically taking almost no damage at all, being super clean in this area. Ironically enough, once again on the walkway, he uses the one stun and one grenade method here as he's tried to last time, but unlike last time, he actually does not get pushed. Instead, he hits himself with the grenade as we see here and losing some time that way. So sadly nothing gained here at this segment. Once again, a clean cooked grenade setup here for the weapons glitch to get rid of the stinger. However, he needs an extra attempt, so let's get more time loss once again here. But thankfully on the second attempt, he does make it work. And once again here in the tower B, going back down after having not fogged the hind, he uses again a chaff, just walking past the first set of turrets as the chaff explodes, and then continuously walking down, hoping that the chaff is still active long enough that the second set of turrets he can also walk past here. Well, once again we see he said it didn't work out, and he almost died at this point here, as one of the turrets shot in to basically bring it down to one hit KO as soon as the next turret would hit him. And as it's moving down here by the boxes, aligning once again, hopefully first try going to box. And no, also this time here, no first try for this little getting on the box situation. Aligning himself once more and needed a second attempt in order to get over the boxes. So once again, losing just a little bit more time. Then at Wolf 2, using the death barrier once again, setting up the weapons glitch as we've known before. And at least this one, he gets the first attempt. So at least when it comes to the weapons glitches, only the first one he lost once time, needing a second attempt here, but for the second one, he did it first try. Once again, after Tower B, grabbing the stinger again, he comes back to the blast furnace after the disc swap, and once again he throws this stun right behind the door and using the Nikita to get rid of the crane without any extra alert. So did a year help of getting better at the elevator fight? Well, as we see here, first guard no problem at all, just being quickly tossed over. Second guard no problem at all, but the third guard actually shoots him as we see here, and so thankfully he had a ration on not dying here to the elevator, losing a bunch of time. Can still be done a little bit cleaner. Raven, exact same familiar situation as we've seen it before, shooting a rocket out all the way behind Raven and then continuously shooting at him to get his health down all the way to 0. And here's the moment of truth. Last time he did have the guard rat, which is an insanely fast way to get the pal here, but he now has the alerts. Will he get an even faster time without needing to kill the rat? He does not get the guard rat and not the guard pal, but he gets the pal key in the 4th position, which is okay still, but he also got the bomb in the 5th position, and if you pick up the bomb, you gotta get rid of it and toss it out before continuing on. So actually it's a little bit slower than the guard rat. However, still overall very fast. And once again here at Rex, he does his usual spiel as he's shooting out the stinger as soon as possible, which is just the moment as Rex is starting to cry out, shooting out the first rocket, and then the second rocket, and then unequipping and just walking this little circle here for the first phase, which of course he does damage less as usual. Is what I would have said, but actually in the last few seconds of the first phase here, he got damaged once, whatever. Thankfully for the second phase, it doesn't matter too much. He still has 2 rations of heals here available, and so once again he does actually here tank all the damage, trying to finish the fight as clean as possible just by taking all the damage and staying in the same position, having Rex come closer and at the middle distance. You see here, this time, unlike last time, he actually does finish the fight quite fast without any issues and not having Rex move all around. So that's a huge time save, at least versus his last time. And almost a year later, he will also show us what his liquid fight looks like this time.
Have at you, Snake!
Very nice.
Yeah, I knew it.
Once again, losing just a little bit of time here at the liquid fight. Considering everything that we've seen so far, there might be a chance this will not roll record. But after everything was said and done, the credits rolled through. As we see here, it is indeed a new world record by 14 seconds. So a 1 hour, 1 minute, and 12 seconds time here. His own comment actually does make a lot of sense. As he says himself, broke the tie, still a bad run. But this bad run is still the world record to this day. So if you think you can beat this run, just get a PlayStation TV from eBay. I know they're not that cheap anymore, but after everything we know, and plus with new tricks like the Boba Skip, you actually have a shot out there if you just practice a little bit and get good enough with the game that you can have this world record. Now, emulator, of course, has been a category for a while now, but you need to know that, as I said earlier, in 2017, PC, emulator, and console was split. In the meantime, they actually merged the console and emulator categories once again, because all the emulators just used slow disk speed settings and actually matching more the PS1, where the PS1 even was slower than the PS TV. So if you did run emulator or console, it was mostly just console anyway, because you wanted to have the fast loads of the PS TV. However, all that changed a little bit later. On July 2nd, 2021, so almost a year after the last 80% hard run, finally a new emulator was allowed for the boards. It's called DuckStation, and DuckStation is an amazing PlayStation 1 emulator because for speedrunners in Metal Gear Solid 1, we actually learned this thing is fast. And how much faster, you ask? Well, let's check out the first run that was faster for the new world record done on DuckStation fast disk setting. So just shortly after the introduction of DuckStation and the fast disk setting here, on August 4th, 2021, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 came back and did a new run of 80% hard. To fill the boards, of course, all he did beforehand was just console runs and not emulator runs, because they were not separated by then. Now that they're separated, there's a new world record for him to get. There's also yet another thing that we can do in DuckStation. Not only is it loading much faster, there's one more benefit. DuckStation has built-in turbo, and after some discussion, we not only allow DuckStation on the leaderboards with its own emulated category, but also the allowed use of turbo in order to skip cutscenes and codecs. So if you hold down the right stick, as you see in his game input here, he actually presses the X button over and over again, allowing us to switch through these codecs even faster. And it does make a huge difference if you don't need to manually mash anymore and strain your thumbs and hands, and instead just need to press down the stick, for example, in order to press X over and over again. You can actually see it right here after the first set of codecs here after the elevator came down. It is done so much faster just if you don't need the human factor anymore. For cutscenes, you actually still want to hold down X because it's faster to hold down X, so cutscenes don't even start loading in or you skip them. But if you hold down your turbo button, which in this instance is the right stick here for 𝐇𝐚𝐮, and just press X over and over again like that, codecs go by so much faster. Just compare this to the console run that we just talked about here. Here you can see clearly side by side how much faster automatic turbo codec forwarding is compared to manually mashing here. Once again, having a clean setup here of executing the ven glitch first try, grabbing the PSG-1 here quickly in the armory, and also once again not going past the first guy and going to the second guy, but actually waiting for the first guy to come down here after the PSG-1. We see 𝐇𝐚𝐮 here once again grabbing the Nikita here and also going for the stunts here just for a faster Tower A run. After yet another successful Tower A climb and of course rappel sequence, we once again go to the walkway. And this time in 2021, we'll see here, yeah, he uses the stunts once again, but actually we also see him here being shot back on accident. So if there's anything that you learn from this, even a good gamer like 𝐇𝐚𝐮, who has multiple thousands of world records here, even he can do some mistakes and still get a world record. So do not get deterred here by just having small mistakes in your run. You can still get a world record like that. Once again, we see 𝐇𝐚𝐮 here at Liquid, and this time the question of course has to be asked, is 2021 the year where he consistently gets quick liquid double infinites? Well, he opts again once here for the tooth throw setup and getting even close by throwing it early as he needs to. And yes, thankfully I can assure you that he does now in 2021 clean liquid infinite double punch methods here to get through the fight as quickly as possible. Having a huge time save here of course over his last PB of the 1 hour, 1 minute and 12 seconds. And of course having the included advantage of turbo for the codecs and as well for faster loading times. And after a really clean run overall, after everything has been said and done, the score screen appears. We have a brand new world record here at 80% hard, and it's the first sub hour for this difficulty category. But 59 minutes and 20 seconds is a huge improvement, of course, over the 1 hour, 1 minute and 12 seconds that we had so far on hardware. But as I said, well, hardware is its own category nowadays. The 1 hour, 1 minute and 12 seconds is still the world record. And so this is just the start of the emulator world record history. Now, this last run was August 4th, 2021. I feel like something happened in August. If my memory serves me right, in August 2021, oh yeah! On August 16th, 2021, Boba, a streamer from the Yoxcast crew on Twitch, just played Metal Gear Solid 1. Nothing nefarious, nothing crazy here, but she did this. Here, Boba just went through the Tower A as usual, and for some reason he thought, oh yeah, I can just go through the frozen door. And then she did. What a crazy person does that? Thankfully, one of our speedrun friends was in her stream at that time. The friend clipped that, saw that, and immediately went to our speedrunners and told us like, hey, did you see that that this Boba streamer lady actually just glitched through the frozen door in Tower A? And we were like, What? Just to quickly summarize the impact of this. Being able, of course, to clip through the frozen door here in Tower A saves a lot of stuff. You don't need to go the rest of Tower A. You don't need to do the rappel sequence. And also, probably most importantly, at least for console runners, you don't need to deal with the walkway guards, because the version of the walkway that you glitch into through this glitch is actually the version after you open the frozen door. And for that, the game logically is like, okay, if you go through this door and you land on the walkway, we're gonna load the second version of the walkway that does not have the guards on there. So not just only we're saving almost 2 minutes of time overall, we also don't need to deal with the walkway guys anymore. And I know one runner who actually had a lot of trouble with these walkway people there. So after Boba came out with that little trick and just blasted all the world records open, a lot of people actually did get new world records. One of them was me. However, I only focused on the PC side of things, and Emulator was actually spared for the most part. However, on October 7th, 2021, just a little bit later after the whole Boba Skip stuff happened, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 sat down and did yet another Emulator 80% hard run, this time utilizing this new trick. For the most part, that run was just your usual dealing, and as we get here to Tower A, we see also in his live split view, he was not that much faster than his previous world record Emulator run here on 80% hard. So, as he's moving through Tower A here, we're getting ready to do the setup here. We throw a stun first, and then another to delay more guards, and then we get ready to lean against the door. Just the day that we found out Boba Skip, we had our first setup. So one of the setups, of course, here is looking at the direct angle and the texture of the wall, using the stun to explode in their hands, and then go and hopefully get the right damage animation. In this instance, this is a 50-50 situation, so we got lucky here in 𝐇𝐚𝐮's case. He went through the door right away, did not need to wait at all, and just went through. And as we see also, with no walkway guards here anymore, he does not need to deal with them at all and cannot be delayed anymore, saving a bunch of time. And as we see in his live split even, he saves 2.5 minutes here. That would mean, based on his previous world record performance, the new time just from this one trick, if he carries on everything the same, could be a 56 minutes and 50 second time. 56:50 basically was the new horizon for everyone to look forward to, just based on this last run. What's crazy is he even advanced his time at save to 2 minutes and 38 seconds after the disc swap. But as we see here, unfortunately, he did get the alert here in the blast furnace trying to get rid of the crane, and even the crane was not hit by his grenade, as he opted here to not use the Nikita, but instead a grenade in order to get rid of the crane. So in this room, unfortunately, he had to be with all the guards that were now in position here and need to go away first. And also, he did not destroy the crane at all, needing to wait for the crane to go over your head, and then he was able to move on, losing him a bunch of time in this instance here. Actually, 2 times here. Oh my god, this is so devastating to go through in the run. So after this room, he lost 20 seconds already, was down to 2 minutes and 18. And throughout the rest of the run, he will bleed even more time. So the PAL key, sadly, in this run was not in his favor. As we see here, he got the guard bomb and also a position 5 PAL key, which is actually faster than the last one, which got the PAL key in position 4 and the bomb in position 5. But still, he needed to deal with the bomb and also had this little fiasco happening at the stairs. Overall, not much faster than the previous one, so we ended up with the exact same time. Once again, we stand here at Metal Gear Rex for the first phase. We're getting ready to set everything up as usual. And 𝐇𝐚𝐮 once again would normally use his rotating setup here, where he shoots out 2 stingers and then goes away. But in this instance, he sadly had it happen that the Rex was actually leaning back and not constantly using the laser, and that delayed already a lot more. As we see, he even just turns to the side and his nose actually blocks the radome, so you can't shoot that. So that alone was a little bit more timeless. And once again, we are standing at Liquid. This time, of course, there won't be any issues, right?
Have at you, Snake.
That's fine. Well, that's fine.
And it goes on like that. So that eventually, after everything was said and done, Liquid cost him a whole minute. So the dream of the 56 minute was dead, and so was the dream of the 57. And after everything was said and done, we reached the score screen. We look at the new world record for Emulator, 80% hard, with a time of 58 minutes and 32 seconds. We know what the possible times are. We know there's lots of time losses, and it would just take one runner dedicating a little bit of practice to get this time even lower, to grab a really big bite of the world record history. And that runner will be a German by the name of Inside. Inside really has just 2 runs to his name here. We have the Casper game in Metal Gear Solid 80% on emulator. But he did run all the difficulties from very easy to hard, at least. Never extreme though, unfortunately. And in 2022, so a few months after the whole Boba Skip happened, and a lot more people were done with the categories for a little bit. They got all the records that they wanted, and 𝐇𝐚𝐮 even took all 100% of the world records for Metal Gear Solid 1. Slowly definitely February 15th, 2022. It was inside to update with a time of 58 and 6 seconds. This is not a crazy good run by today's standards, but for the most part his run was similar to 𝐇𝐚𝐮's. And once we get to the Boba glitch here, as we align and hope for the right 50-50 luck, we try to go through the door. In this instance here, Inside was a little bit unlucky. He needed a second attempt to glitch through the door, costing just a few seconds and even a potential time save here. So as we see here, after yet a second failed stun, he had to go back to the backup, which is using a grenade. As long as you do get damage and knockback, it still can work. Again, each time you roll the dice with 50-50 coin, and the third time he actually advances through the door here. Sadly, this cost him so far his PB advantage, but the run of course is still not over. After reaching the end of Tower B, once again after the cutscene, he moves up, throws a grenade and gets ready to use the weapons glitch. And as we see here, he did definitely spend some time practicing because he gets it also first try again. Similar situation here at Wolf 2, once again crawling towards the death barrier, as it's basically the standard now for this 90% category. He also gets the glitch here first try. And after grabbing the Stinger in Tower B and now swapping this over to, of course, this 2, we reach the blast furnace where 𝐇𝐚𝐮 unfortunately lost a huge chunk of time. This time Inside throws the grenade and actually does not get the alert, and he throws the grenade just at the crane to get rid of it, saving a huge time over 𝐇𝐚𝐮's last run here, which of course makes the 20-second advantage already apparent here. On the elevator, once again, he shows that he also knows fast strategies while risking a little bit more. He does get knocked back a few times here, as we see, by damage or even being knocked over actually, but he still gets through this fight relatively fast. Now with Raven, he opts to go to the left side here, rotating Raven around, and actually uses the first Nikita rocket here to immediately damage Raven, not wasting one rocket to first get his attention. This is still a little bit faster from the left side here, but also runs the risk of having something like this happen here, where you shoot the Nikita a little bit too early. As you see here, one of the rockets sadly was lost as the iframes were not open yet again. Now let's see what the Pale Key RNG has on offer for us today. Finally, we got the Pale Key. But how did Inside do here against Metal Gear Rex? Well, as we see here in Metal Gear Rex, he just moves on forward and of course uses once again the earliest start possible as soon as Rex starts screaming. And yes, the machine can scream. I don't know why. Don't ask me, ask Otacon. And here we go. Once again, using a similar setup to 𝐇𝐚𝐮's, where he would just walk around. Having also the exact same problem as 𝐇𝐚𝐮's in this last run here, when the first phase he needed to deal with Rex leaning back, having some distance, and also having to deal with the rockets that come out here. Still, at least from his previous PB performance, he did get quite a good time save here on this Rex fight, and he goes with minus 30 seconds into the Liquid fight. Now, Liquid in 𝐇𝐚𝐮's last run was sadly a disaster, needing to run after him the whole time and losing a minute here. So that's a big cushion for Inside to still catch up a lot more time. Let's see how he does. So here we go. Inside starts here once again with the 2 throws setup, getting Liquid in the top right corner, and then setting up the double punch sequence. And in this run, he did not drop it at all. Goes through the entire fight with a clean double punch all the way to the end and saving a huge chunk of time here over 𝐇𝐚𝐮. So at the end, he not only gets a new PB, but a new world record by 26 seconds for the first time, claiming here the Emulator 80% hard world record. And Inside was not done at all with Emulator hard. Just 2 days later, he did get another run on 80% hard and got even a cleaner world record run. As we see in his new PB, he also got Boba Skip done actually first try, saving a huge chunk of time here at 90%. And also his Pale Key RNG was much better this time. He got the Pale Key in position 5, which is just one less than God Pal, and of course he saves yet again a few seconds here over his previous world record MPB. At Metal Gear Rex, in the first phase also, he didn't have way less trouble just after 2 days of practicing a little bit, getting the setup right, just like 𝐇𝐚𝐮 did show him beforehand. And as you can see here, constantly switching back and forth, avoiding the lasers and the LMG fire, he actually is able to shoot a lot quicker against Rex in the first phase, not losing any time here at all, and actually saving a bunch for his PB comparison. And even the second phase went much cleaner, so that he saved even more time here after the second phase of Rex, just tanking all the damage with the rations that he has, being able to do this fight once more even faster also in phase 2, leading to overall a time save of 52 seconds versus his personal best, which was the world record of course at 58.06. Now only one last hurdle was left here to get a brand new world record with an incredibly update to his PB and the world record history as well. Once again doing the 2 throw here, getting Liquid in position and just needing double punches until the end until Liquid is done. But then, just shy of the end, it happened. Liquid actually retaliates and he drops the double infinite punches. So he loses just a little bit of time, only 5 seconds here. This could be way worse, but still, a small smidge on his world record update here, losing just at the end of the Liquid fight a little bit of time. But after everything was said and done, the score screen shows up and we see here a new world record improvement of 44 seconds here with a brand new time of 57.22. Now this world record here from February 17th, 2022 did not last for long, sadly, as 𝐇𝐚𝐮 once again makes his comeback here. Once again, similar to his own PB, Boba Skip was the first big stop where maybe he could lose some time, but in this run, he did also. So unlike Inside here, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 sadly needed several attempts here, similar to Inside's first world record run, but finally on his third attempt glitching through the door and with some time loss, he made it through the door. Now for the penalty RNG, what did 𝐇𝐚𝐮 get? Well, once again, we see here 𝐇𝐚𝐮 actually not being as lucky, getting the bomb in position 3 and also getting the penalty only at position 1. The second worst position and the second biggest time loss, of course, here, getting the penalty. So once again, not having Boba first try and having a bad penalty, this is not looking good at all for his world record attempt. Once again, after everything was said and done, and Rex actually was quite clean for him this time, he just was a little bit ahead. Liquid was on his way to ruin this PB attempt.
That was the weirdest fight I've ever fucking had. Did you see that twirl at the start? What the fuck was that? I had to readjust. I knew I was out of position. How the fuck did I do that twirl and get in position like that?
Truly a game of his own. Anyone else would have crumbled at this one point. Now, in this run, for the first time for the category at least, there was also one more thing that was different. And that is something that was found just slightly beforehand. With the emulator, we can actually use 2 controllers. The same thing that we can technically also do on console. And this allows us for this trick, where we are actually standing here by the second checkpoint of the Jeep chase, and we can have the guards actually run into a line of fire by controlling with a second controller where the guards are walking. This 1-player 2-controller setup was found by Platonic Guy here on August 29th, 2021, so just a little bit later after Boba Skip. But at least for the any % hard category, this was not used before. The way this works is actually quite simple. You just have to have a second controller connected, as you do for example with Mantis as well. And here, as he explains, you just hold D-pad down and left on the second controller and shoot of course with the first controller here. You need to time yourself a little bit before shooting, or else you will actually shoot the right guard first, which then won't interact anymore with your inputs. And with the second D-pad, you can just, as you hold down the inputs, swing around and have all the guards run into a line of fire. This is a huge time save, especially for the higher difficulties, because as you go higher difficulty, the guards take more damage and it takes longer to beat them. But before they actually can retaliate to you and you lose time because you get knocked back multiple times on higher difficulties, they just die to your line of fire right away, and that saves quite a good chunk here. As we see here in 𝐇𝐚𝐮's run, that was actually not a big time save because the rest of the escape sequence was not that clean, but still it helped a lot to keep up the difference here. So at the end of the day, barely missing the sub 57, the new world record landed on 57 minutes and 5 seconds, beating the previous time by Inside here by 17 seconds. And that's where the world record stood for an entire year. Ironically, it would not be the last time that a German actually contests 𝐇𝐚𝐮 world records, especially in the emulator categories for Metal Gear Solid 1. In 2023, another runner from Germany actually made his way forward onto the leaderboards. He first started on January 30th, 2022, and then a year later in 2023 actually went on a big rampage of PV updates that eventually will also turn into world records. I'm talking about repeats. Originally starting out with the all bosses easy difficulty category, where you got a time on the PlayStation emulator of 1 hour 38 minutes. He very quickly in 2022 went on to lower his PB down to 1 hour and 20 minutes, so an 18 minutes improvement. Then turning over to the PC category on any percent, getting some experience there. He then will also move on over to emulator in his favorite category, it seems, because after January 2023, he basically exclusively just does runs on the emulator with the different categories of any percent, all bosses, and even the original Japanese release, which is its separate category. His first attempt at 80% hard was just a nice 5909, a nice sub-hour to begin his career here in the 80% category. That was on March 21st. However, on March 31st, he did this run.
And 56:31.
One of the few things that are better in repeats run is the use of double turbo. As you found out, it's totally fine to also use a second stick input to turbo on the circle button. So, as we are not just turboing with pressing X over and over again, if we also on the other off frame then press circle, we can advance codecs even faster. And as we can see here, he's going through the codecs quite fast by having turbo for both X and circle and then having them slightly offset by 1 frame of each other. As he goes through the game, so far up to Tower A, nothing of the unusual, getting the vent glitch quickly, getting a PSG1, and ironically, using here a different method for the Boba Skip. So instead of opting to use stuns and damaging himself that way, he actually lets the guard following up there, position himself and lets himself shoot through the door. Still, once again, this is a 50-50 chance to get the right damage animation that actually touches the loads on the other side of the frozen door, but daring to have the guard follow you and actually damage you, this is quite interesting and different, of course, in order to get through the door. Again, the 2 weapon glitches of this category are also quickly executed here. First try in Tower B, of course, and for Wolf 2 as well, immediately crawling into the death barrier, getting the glitch set up, and first try executing it. For Blast Furnace, once again, using the stun here to get no alert, but actually not having all the guards fall over. And he also uses the grenade in a well-cooked time to get rid of the crane here. The elevator fight also was done almost clean, taking some damage, but not crazy amounts, so he actually gets through quite fast. And of course, Raven was also no problem here to the left side of the initial box. Once again, when it comes to luck, for the Palkey at least, luck was not fully on his side, despite having good Boba Skip RNG here. As he tries to retrieve the Palkey, he picks up the bomb and also gets the Palkey here in position 2. So at least not unlike D-Lime's previous run in position 1, which is a little bit worse. Position 2 plus bomb still is not a very good time here for the Palkey retrieval. And also interesting here, after the Palkey sequence in the Rex fight, Repeats opts to use the lean method in order to do the first Rex phase here, which is slightly different. Some people just don't like it as much, but he ends up here at the end using the walk around method instead. For Rex's second phase here, once again we see the runner just using a mixture of tanking damage and leading in first person as we see here. This is even more trickier just because the timings are so much tighter on hard difficulty, but that at least allows here, for example, if Rex is leaning back here, to not waste crazy amounts of time here. So as you just stand in position, you can just shoot out more rockets, and as we see here also, it's still not that great as a performance. As we see here, he's constantly leaning back and forth with Rex and needing to move around as well to not get hit by the rockets. So at least for the second phase, Repeats definitely can improve, but this was still quite good overall. Last but not least, of course, again here at Liquid, we need to see a good performance in order to save time, and Repeats also has done his homework, and as we can see here, with 2 throws and a little bit of figuring around what he needs to do with the punches, he eventually gets the double punch sequence all the way down to the end, beating Liquid in a quite fast manner. Interesting enough here as well, Repeats did not opt to use the 2 controller setup where we are at the second checkpoint and have the guards just run into line of fire. He just does it normally. And at the end, after the chase sequence and the credits roll through, we have a new world record time of 56 minutes 31 seconds. The world's first sub 57, improving the previous world record by 34 seconds overall. So at the end of the day, this 56:31 stood for a month. And then 𝐇𝐚𝐮 took it back. Once again here, Boba Skip being done first attempt, saving a good chunk of time here versus his previous world record. And as we'll see, this also is not the most clean run yet from his side here. As here, once again, in the elevator fight, we will see that 𝐇𝐚𝐮 has a little bit of trouble here going through without any hassle. Start of the run was quite fun. Just going to quick throw over here, and then the second quick throw that we normally do did fail, and then even the backup punch kick failed here. So instead of trying even more throws, 𝐇𝐚𝐮 just opts to choke out the guards here and saving at least a little bit of health. But unfortunately, of course, around 11 seconds were lost just alone in here. But it all came back in here at the PAL key retrieval, and as we see here, just on the position 5, the second best position now was the PAL key, saving a huge chunk of time here over the bomb plus position 1 key that he had last time here. And after 2 clean Rex phases, a good liquid find, and a decent chase here at the end, he saves even more time for a total PB improvement of 40 seconds, and of course a world record improvement of 9 seconds overall. So repeats lost the world record to 𝐇𝐚𝐮, and this was a thing that was going on for quite some time. These two, not alone at 80% hard difficulty, but all other difficulties as well, the most intriguing one being on other categories and difficulties as well. However, after 𝐇𝐚𝐮's run here on April 30th, repeats did not take long to get to another attempt here as well in 80% hard, and he did so on May 7th, just a week later. And after yet another first try Boba Skip, another unfortunate time loss here at the elevator fight. As we see here, the first guy was not actually thrown over the railing, unfortunately leading to a small time loss here as we need to run up to the first guy again and choke it out this time. Even the PAL key retrieval here was not too kind to repeats here. As we see, he gets the guard bomb that he needs to get rid of and gets the PAL key in position 4. Just slightly worse than 𝐇𝐚𝐮's run with the PAL key in position 5. And actually, at least he did have no bomb. So 𝐇𝐚𝐮 was actually put down by 2 factors here in this segment. But still, after everything was said and done, Rex was beaten and Liquid beaten up as well, with a new world record here of just 56:21. So just by 1 second a week later, repeats beat the time here. And as it stands, this run for May 7th, 2023 was the world record for quite some time. For how long exactly? Well, it stayed for an entire year. And this is now the part where we actually get to the most exciting thing in this whole entire world record history, I think. This is where we get to the actual competition once again. The clash of 2 runners going back and forth multiple times in rapid succession. It's time to introduce the last runner of this world record update. Let's take a look at Spitfire. So Spitfire is a runner from the Czech Republic, and he actually started last year when the Master Collection Volume 1 came out. He was running the 80% category on the Master Collection on PC, on the extreme difficulty and also the hard difficulty, and he actually got quite decent times. Remember, the world record for console, which the Master Collection is bundled onto, even if you play the PC version, the PC Master Collection version is bundled with the consoles, as it's technically just a official way of emulating the PlayStation 1 game, similar to how PSN or PSTV is technically an emulation of the PS1 game. And he already, 9 months ago, had the 3rd place on the leaderboard, just behind Plywood and 𝐇𝐚𝐮. Plywood being, of course, in number 2 with 1 hour, 1 minute and 26 seconds, and 𝐇𝐚𝐮 having the world record in this category on console for 80% hard with 1 hour, 1 minute and 12 seconds. So just 24 seconds away from the world record for this category, he was showing up quite strong. And even his 5th place here at 1 hour, 1 minute and 13 seconds is not even that bad, considering the 80% extreme board is really tight at this point. Yes, the world record has been lowered to 58 minutes, and a 1 hour, 2 minutes and 13 seconds is not that close to that, but overall, considering extreme difficulty is, well, so high in difficulty, being even close within 5 minutes of the world record on extreme 80%, I think is quite a good showing of your skill. And remember, he's running on PC, so he has a disadvantage, as the load times for the Master Collection Volume 1 on PC, but also on consoles, are more similar to the actual PS1 load times and PS3. PSTV, the other times that are on the leaderboard, have a huge advantage in load times here over the Master Collection. And hence, if we actually subtract yet another 2 minutes here, this run moves immediately to 3rd place, being just shy behind Jaguar King and 𝐇𝐚𝐮 13. So yeah, Spitfire, as he joined 9 months ago, was already making some waves. He was just stealthy enough to be under the radar for most people. Until he submitted this run on September 17th. This is the new world record for any percent extreme. Basically, out of nowhere, he beats 𝐇𝐚𝐮📓 speedrun for emulator any percent extreme by just 1 second after almost a year of having started. Basically, in silence, just grinding away at the game here, coming out, being like, bam, here's your new world record. And of course, as you can think for yourself, extreme was not the only thing he wanted to take. Let's take a look at his performance. He does the 𝐿 here on second try, gets the PSG1 of course as well, also very fast without needing to stop much. Boba Skip happened here on first attempt, and even the weapon glitches he did here successfully on first try in Tower B. And also Wolf 2, of course, crawling into the death barrier, he got the weapons glitch set up here in his first attempt. The blast furnace room also was no problem for him here, utilizing the stun and the grenade against the crane. And even at the threaded elevator fight, we see here Spitfire giving us a great example of how to do this on hard difficulty. Once again, running through here. Yes, he's been shot, but at least he did not miss throwing all the guards over the railing here. He even slightly delayed here not to be shot once again by the guard, not needing to switch over to any ration and still preserving some health. After another clean fight here versus Raven on the left side of the initial box, it's time to retrieve the PAL key. And this is where the biggest advantage came from. He got the best PAL key situation right under the bridge. This alone, of course, is yet again another small but still significant time save here versus the other runs that so did not have the guard PAL key. And also utilizing an interesting strategy of having slightly Rex turn to the side, which I like a lot. I should utilize it myself. He does the first phase here completely damageless without any problem. Even the second phase here runs along all smooth, and as we can see in this last bit, he also saved some time versus his previous PB at this point. Last but not least, of course, here Liquid. He's using the 2-throw method and also an early version, which gets Liquid even closer to the edge, almost having run away, but he still caught him quickly enough to do the double punches until all of his health was gone. And of course, he kicks in at the end over the railing without any time loss, finally giving us an awesome clean run throughout Rex and Liquid all together without huge time losses that can happen. Once again, at second checkpoint, finally we have another world record here that utilizes the 1-player 2-controller setup to quickly get rid of the guards here at checkpoint 2. And finally, as the score screen comes around, we see here a new world record by 14 seconds with 56.07, beating his own previous PB by 17 seconds. I'm sometimes a little bit sad when runners only post if they actually have a world record. I mean, for one, it's definitely cool if you post out of nowhere and here's a brand new world record. You definitely shock a lot of people. It did shock me. It did shock a lot of other people as well. On the other hand, it's just nice to see somebody working towards their goal and seeing their progress. So Spitfire, if you have any PB updates for us to share, if like maybe you want to tell us like how long you've been running that, let us know in the comments down below. We love to read your story as well. Maybe I'll make another video out of that. But as it stands, this is only the beginning, because this run for September 24th would have not been the reason that I make this video. Also not this run that was done 5 days later by Repeats, where he got a new world record and the world's first sub 56 with a time of 55.57. It was actually the whole back and forth that happened in the meantime. October 2nd, Spitfire got the world record back again with another 5-second improvement of 55 minutes and 52 seconds. Only for Repeats on October 4th, getting yet another world record of 55.43. Another 2 days later, Repeats comes back with yet another time here of 55 and 40 seconds. And finally, we end here at the latest world record, where Spitfire, at least right now, has the world record at the time of recording this video. But yeah, this is at least right now the world record for emulator any percent hard. And this has been going back and forth between these two runners a lot. They've been cleaning up a lot, and basically what this category has come down to, just because there were two runners constantly going back and forth and updating the world records and actually bothering to continuously run the category, is a quite optimized category. Of course, this run has Boba Skip done perfectly in the first attempt here by being damaged by a guard. And of course, this fight also has a very clean elevator fight here without almost taking any damage. Spitfire was delaying just a little bit too much. He probably could have done a PPK at the end here versus the third guy. So there's a little bit of potential. In the Palki retrieval here, Spitfire got the guard bomb, unfortunately, but also the Palki in position 5. So he barely lost any time versus initial first world record posting and just losing time basically because he picked up the bomb and needed to get rid of it. His other big jump in time save here was the Metal Gear Rex fight, where in the first phase he actually did a very clean just run around and not actually delaying too much on the shots situation. This whole thing barely looks different from what we've seen in his other first initial world record posting, but as you can understand, of course, at this level we're not really looking at big jumps anymore. This category by now has been optimized by yet another 1.5 minutes in just less than a month. So understandably, of course, runners have just been cleaning up more and more, and of course the factors that really make a difference here are the RNG situations. What's fascinating is that only a day before this latest submission, Italian speedrunner 𝐇𝐚𝐮𝟓 made a new tutorial how to beat Liquid on the left side, saving yet one more second over any of the right side setups that we've known so far. Now the question is, can Spitfire use this brand new technique and not mess up to still get an even bigger time save than he already had in his run? Let's find out.
Have at you, Snake!
At this point, of course, it's no question you have to use the 1-player 2-controller setup here for the guards in the escape, and of course Spitfire uses this here as well. And after all the credits have been run through, there's the new world record that's at least currently standing at 55 minutes and 27 seconds. Well, where does this leave us? When I started making this video, I did not think that it would be this big, like this long in particular. And I'm glad that I sat down to actually start this journey. It was quite fun to look at a category, especially because it wasn't that run that often, and because there was still interesting history there to uncover. There was still enough thrill there for me to make such a big video out of it. And especially at the end with the back and forth, I just really enjoyed seeing that notification here in speedrun.com almost every second day. If you take anything home from that, it may be this. When I asked Spitfire how long he was grinding actually for these world records, which he, by the way, just today has actually gotten all of the emulator 80% world records for 5 different difficulties, he said he was grinding for a month. And if that doesn't tell you that you, the viewer out there, if you just want to, you can get good enough to compete in speedrunning on a world record level if you just sit down and do the work. Now, of course, some leaderboards are more difficult to acquire top time in than others, but let me tell you, if you have any game that you like and enjoy and think about speedrunning, just give it a try. You might be the next world record holder. And with that being said, who knows where this category can still go? I talked to Spitfire, he said his sum of best is around a 55.11, so still 16 seconds more to go. And I'm sure that he maybe comes back, but also Repeats is not done yet. Repeats is such a strong runner on his own as well across all of Medic Assault 1. But don't forget, there's also other runners like 𝐇𝐚𝐮 13, Plywood that are still around. From what I heard, Plywood is less interested in participating in Medic Assault 1 speedruns anymore. But at least 𝐇𝐚𝐮 for sure also has an eye on those leaderboards once he's done submitting his 5,000 videos. But then, I'm sure he will also come back and try for another world record update in this category. I truly thank you all for watching today. I hope you took something home from that, and I hope you were entertained. If you did, it would be really helpful if you give this video a like and share it with your friends. Like, hey, this is a nice video. It would mean the world to me. One day I may do this as a full-time job, but for now it's just for the love of sharing these stories. And certainly, this won't be the last time that I have a story to tell. I already have my eye on the next category, so we'll keep in touch. Until then, my name is 𝐇𝐚𝐮. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope I see you soon on the leaderboards or on my channel. Goodbye.